Well, welcome. It's that time of year. Well, actually, since we're more than 8 feet apart, I can take my mask off. Put it back on when we get together to leave. It's that time of year. The election is upon us. This one is going to be the most important election of all times forever. I think I've heard that at every election that anybody's running, but they're all important. We're hoping we'll spend some time talking about the conservative side of the election. But whether you're a conservative, a liberal, or a purple in between, get out and vote, please. Let everybody know what you think is the way to go. So let's start with introductions.
Hi Al, Jeff Nero, Precinct 8 Town Meeting Member. Glad to be here. I'm with you. Get out and make your vote heard.
Former FinCom, we miss you.
I miss being there.
Ed Bertarelli, Precinct 2, longtime town meeting member, 30 plus years, and on a couple of boards in town, the Housing Authority, the Geriatric, and the Library Board.
No, you're saying Mr.
Trustees.
Library.
Well, yes, okay, but no, not. I hope not. But yeah, there are a lot. Should be a lot of Mr. And Ms. Libraries, more the merrier.
So why don't we start? Interesting debate. I actually got to hear what each candidate was saying, but what's your perspective on it?
Well, let's put a perspective. We're talking the day after the debate on Friday. You've been nice enough to probably be able to squeeze this in so we can have the show aired before the election. I don't really like debates anyway. I don't like the debate formats. I think, from my point of view, President Trump, that is, labors under a fact that if basically they're hard pressed to find any moderator who would be somewhat favorable, somewhat balanced toward him. I thought this moderator did a pretty good job, but then you read about the track record of the moderator and where she worked and what she did before and whatever. It's just a revolving door between the Democratic Party and the media, which is we've talked about before. I think we'll get into some of Biden's problems later that have been sort of censored by the media, the mainstream media largely. But I thought if the president had done that in the first debate, he would have been very well served, because he came off as bellicose and turned a lot of people off. And I think given the dynamics of the race, he probably needed that extra jump at the beginning. But who knows how things will change. I think there are a couple of states will know early on election night, and we can get into that, how they go and how much they go for one person or another, and that might portend how the election goes.
Now let me ask a fundamental question. Let's assume the 100 people in the audience, if there were that many, are not biased. You picked randomly.
Well, yeah, but yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
100 people randomly picked, walk into the studio, and I say, for you to get in, you have to vote right now. So they all cast their vote before the election. No undecideds.
Yeah.
You have to vote right now.
One or the other.
An hour later, or 2 hours later, the debate's over. To get out of the building, you have to vote right now.
Yep.
Do you think there would be, out of the 100 people, any of them that would have changed their vote before to after the debate?
I don't. I'm not at the last night's debate. I thought last night's debate was much more civilized and I like the way, I'm glad President Trump got the advice he did to let the former vice president answer, dig his own hole, and don't like Ed said, boisterous, don't interrupt,
Yeah, I mean.
But
yeah.
So to your point, no, I don't think there was enough sway to
Yeah.
change
Yeah.
I would
that
bet
time.
you that one person, maybe,
Came
came in.
Hopefully that isn't the candidate.
Well, but I'm just,
In
But-
Biden's case. So.
when I listened,
Yeah.
okay, nothing there, Biden's family's taking money. Trump is arrogant. I mean, all the stuff I heard
Yeah.
going back and forth
But
has been out there.
But remember, to get into that audience, like I went to the debate at the Kennedy Library in 2000, those tickets were sought after. So if you're getting in there, you're not a dispassionate person. You're getting tickets from the Biden campaign or the Trump campaign. There's a reason you're there. Because to be in especially in the COVID environment with probably only 100 people rather than the Kennedy Library where you probably had 900
Well,
in
the
Boston.
president had Hunter's co-worker there, right? Didn't
Yes,
they?
he had, and the president, the president had Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's former business partner. I guess he's turned real sour on them because he figured out there were a lot of, well, he's willing to give testimony. I think a 40-year friend of Biden's. But no, I think, again, I think the minds are made up. And then you have that, the big thing, which is, I guess, 47 million people had voted already by the time the debate occurred, and today it's up to 50. So again, you wonder how those people were affected by the first debate or whether they were affected by anything. It seems the Democrats have a big lead in the early voting, mail voting, which they've always had. The Republicans tend to show up on Election Day, and Trump has now changed a little. He's urging a lot of people to go for early voting, which I'm glad. That's a good point to bring up. Massachusetts really never had it before. And a lot of states like Florida, Texas, North Carolina have had 2 weeks or more where people can vote rather than go on Election Day. Because, those states down there have grown so much. The voting places and whatever, people know if they don't want to stand in long lines, go early, go vote.
But Ed, I don't understand. For years, I was commuting an hour and a half to get home.
Yeah.
Hour plus to get to work. So I called Amy Neves down to Town Hall, and she put me on this program where I got an absentee ballot.
Yeah.
It cost me $1 because I had to put the stamps on. But every primary, every election, the little envelope shows up at my house. I fill it in, put my 2 stamps on it.
Well,
So I send it back.
but I think,
Haven't we had early voting for years?
no, I meant early voting, early in-person voting.
Oh, okay.
Okay, where you go to, like in Texas, North Carolina, Florida. Florida's had it for years because the population growth in Texas and Florida. So they've had a period of 2 to 3 weeks where before Election Day, you went to the high school or went somewhere and you voted.
So if I
in
want to go
person.
early, I live in Milford,
You
where
go
do
to-
I go?
You go for the next 2 weeks up to the Sunday before the election. It's 7 days a week. You go to the upper town hall, walk in the front door, or go in the back and go up the elevator, and you walk up to the upper town hall where we have the town meeting, and they have the officials there. And they have about 8 voting booths there. You cast your ballot, you seal it in an envelope, and you put it in the ballot box.
Do we get better turnout because of that?
Oh, I would think so, yeah.
I think we get better turnout too, but I think the important point that you made about the debate versus early voting is,
Yeah.
so many people voted early ahead of the debates. If the debates, people don't follow, a lot of people don't follow the politics, right? The debates are what they watch. It's going to sway them one way or the other. So many people voted even before that information,
Yeah.
made up their mind. If they're going to be swayed, now it's too late.
Right.
Now it's
Yeah.
too late. It's
Yeah.
like,
It's a whole different dynamic than it used to be.
They're talking not insignificant numbers of early voters.
Well,
Right,
it's
50
47 million now.
I would
It's
say
up
almost
to
50 million
50
people.
million now, yeah. It's about a
Huge.
million a day, I think they're saying, that are doing
So,
it.
you're sitting there saying, on elections that have been decided by very thin margins of people, 50 million people voted before the debate last, or 40-some million before the debate.
Yep,
that's a lot.
That's a
huge.
lot of people.
yeah, considering probably maybe 125 million will vote, something like that. That's a big, it probably might be half the total might vote in early voting and then you will see what happens on Election Day.
Well, even to your point, and I don't know if the states are impacted by fracking, right? Big discussion on fracking last night. And Biden is all over the place, flip-flopping
Yeah, he
on
blew
Biden.
that one.
But I mean, right? But I mean, if people have
Like in
voted,
Texas.
but if people have voted for Biden
Yeah.
because he's not going to do it, and then he says, "Oh yeah, the oil industry's going to be
Yeah.
gone."
Yeah,
That's
But
the vote is in. You can't change it.
Do you
know?
give Biden credit for taking on an issue like that? I mean, they're trying to fight for Western Pennsylvania, for
well,
Texas.
there's no easy answer to that.
No, but Ed, the guy comes out and says, I'm against fossil fuels. I want to put them out of business.
Well, then that's a no vote for me, so.
Well, but I'm saying,
It's interesting that people can say, and I call them limousine liberals. I've called them that for a long time. It's interesting people can say from a certain position in the world, well, we ought to do this. Well, it's funny how these people don't hold themselves to the same standard when it comes to tolerance and other things. So if you're an unfavored group of people, you know, these, what did Hillary call them, deplorables? Well, the same thought is there, that these people have to do this for a living. Well, guess what? That's what they do for a living, just like people worked in the mills. Imagine if someone had said, we should just close the mills in Massachusetts because they're inhuman and whatever. You know what would have happened.
The part I used to love is when they had the climate control summits, and some of the more active people made sure they got there by flying there on their private jet.
Jane Fonda in the Glitterati, yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
you know,
In
Hanoi
Switzerland, wasn't it in
Jane
Switzerland?
flies out on a private jet.
Yeah.
And if you ever think of the carbon footprint that she just
But just
put down.
yeah, again, it's a chic, it's a liberal chic sort of thing that people who are not affected by climate, you know, whatever, by the economy. But I think, you know, you get to a couple of points, and I think the one thing we have to bring up is the Hunter Biden scandal, which the media has.
There's a scandal?
Yes,
I
exactly.
haven't read much about
Well,
it.
I know you haven't, and certainly in the liberal press you haven't, or the media. But apparently this family, the Bidens, have been, I guess they're rivals of the Clintons in my book as far as setting up a good deal to benefit themselves.
I don't think so, Ed. The
Oh, no?
Clintons only had Bill, Hillary.
Yeah, but remember, Bill and Hillary started with, they couldn't even afford furniture for their house when they left the White House, so they had to take furniture from the White House.
Well, that was-
and now they're what, worth 100 and 200 million each?
Well, that was when Bill said, you know, when they asked him, and for once I really believed he was honest, when they said, will you continue to do $500,000 lectures
Absolutely.
if your wife wins the presidency? And he said, absolutely, I got to pay the bills. The $200 million that the Clinton Foundation had raised, you know, it just stunned me. But the Bidens, I mean, they're a good family spread. I mean, it's not just dad.
Since there are a couple of Italians here, we could say it has mafia overtones almost. It's a sort of a.
No, but I understand that everybody gets a piece, not just Hunter, but the daughter.
It's sort of like an Eastern. It's very similar to a lot of politicians on the East Coast. You know, we take Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New York, Philadelphia certainly. It's interesting. I just bring up a little story about Philadelphia. They're all upset that the Republicans want to have ballot security in Philadelphia. There were precincts when, and this is a fact, when George Bush ran against Gore and Kerry, 100% turnout in an inner city precinct.
100%.
100%. And what happens is at a certain time of the day when there's no poll watchers, they vote everybody. And needless to say, you can imagine what the results were, something like 92 to 8% or something. So, you know, you have to go, people are very worried about ballot security. They're also worried about people turning ballots in after the election, harvesting ballots, doing whatever else they're going to do. So we'll have to see.
What I don't understand is, well, you were on the FinCom when my daughter got a job in the Milford school system. So the Ethics Commission said, I can't be part of the school subcommittee anymore because it has direct impact, could have direct impact on my daughter. And we had other members who had their wives.
Yeah.
Sure.
How is it that if I gave your kid $2-3 million bucks,
We're talking about Hunter Biden now.
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
it doesn't matter which.
No, but I'm just saying.
But
in
that's
this
There's
case-
Hunter, there's the dog. I mean,
Yeah.
That's the leap you're making, right? But
you don't know about $3 million,
yeah.
and it's not. I'm giving it to you, but I don't think it'll influence your decision.
Yeah.
I'm confused.
You are. Well, you're gullible if you believe it won't. So.
Yeah, and I don't know how much accuracy the emails. I mean, they've said some of the emails very accurate, right? But the biggest thing, I think we talked about it before, for Joe Biden to say, "Oh, I never talked to my son about business at all," that's baloney. That's baloney.
course.
He never talked to his son
What do you
about
talk? Yeah, what do you talk about?
You know?
You know, exactly. Especially a political family like that. I mean, he's been in office what, 40-something years? Yeah, literally. When he ran for the Senate, from Delaware, yeah. Of course, he's a Pennsylvania native, which may have gave him a little leg up in some parts of Pennsylvania, because I think he was from Scranton. He grew up around there. So, but We'll see. I mean, I think the Republicans are worried about control of the Senate because they feel there might be a blue wave here. We'll see if it is. I was reading a couple of in-depth things, and they said, watch. Obviously, Florida will come in fairly early, even though there's a lot of votes. They know how to count votes there, and even though there's millions of them. If Trump carries Florida, look to Ohio and see if Trump, he carried it by 8% the last time. If he carries it by 5%, it'll be a long night, they said. If he loses it or it's much closer, it could be a Biden
Well,
victory.
when I listen to your favorite radio station, CNN,
Yes.
they're giving 8 or 9 routes that Biden can win.
Well, gee,
And like
270.
one to get to 270 for Trump.
well, did they phone those to Biden? Because do you remember election night in 2016? All these commentators had said there was an 80% chance that Hillary was going to win. There was a 97% chance, and then of course, you know, their dream fell apart and whatever. So we'll see. I see that, you know, it's going to be an interesting night. I mean, I think Trump is the underdog.
I do too, I agree.
Yeah.
I do. I mean, self-inflicted, my opinion, but.
That's the irony is I think you said before, if someone's going to write, if there's an enterprising graduate student out there, someone wants to do a thesis or a master's degree on how you want to elect yourself as a candidate, he certainly proves he's not a politician, because what politician would say statements that want to elect themselves, just like the coronavirus thing or whatever. The classic thing would be, a politician would be, put the vice president and all the medical experts out front, and you don't go near it. You know, you make sure you get the money, but when you start owning it, then it gives them a shot to, you know, they've come after him. As you say, CNN, it'd be hard pressed to watch CNN that's not making a negative remark about Trump. I mean, I heard him called today a liar, an idiot, just in a half-hour little frame of CNN. I'm like, huh?
Yeah, but that's constant. I mean, I start off listening to Fox News
Yeah,
when I
but
get in the car in the
I
morning.
haven't heard even on MSNBC or even Fox. I've never heard the president called a liar by any commentator there. That's pretty. But they do it as a standard course.
I was going to say, on CNN, it's every other sentence.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
New York Times as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I read the Times at lunch every
And
day.
that's become a.
You know,
yeah.
and I love when they claim that they're unbiased.
Yeah.
So are we, by the way. Anyway. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. I think as I
What do
say,
you think
as
is
a
going to
Republican.
decide?
as
What do
a-
you think is really going to decide this election? Because
I think the biggest negative for the president is the coronavirus problem and the questions about his handling it. I think he mishandled it in many different ways, at least from a PR point of view. He also mishandled it from a mask point of view. And I think he scared a lot of seniors, especially senior women, who were voted for him last time. And I think,
But
because
Ed-
they have kids, grandkids, families, and I think
do you think people are more upset at Trump because of his mouth or because of his deeds?
probably the mouth, actually, because
I mean, when you think about it, last night I heard Iran, you know, that
yeah.
look what you're doing, you know, and the implication is he's being too hard on Iran. And I sit there and I say, well, I don't feel too terrible about what Trump has done with Iran.
Don't you think his,
Yeah, I
you
don't either.
you capsulize it, don't you think his mouth has eclipsed his deeds?
Yes.
So therefore, people think of the delivery of the thing rather like the thing with the Israel getting relations with one of the Arab countries, which had never happened. It was brushed off
But wait a
because.
minute, now they're up to 5. Sudan came
I
on
just-
board
I just
today.
saw- It's just today, yeah.
And again,
Oh yeah.
I think about Trump saying that he's going to solve the Middle East problems. Okay, we've been trying for since the end of World War II, and nobody's been able to do it. But this guy has gotten
Major
3
steps.
extra countries to come on board.
When do you think we're going to read about that in the front page of the Times? Never. So.
I didn't see it today.
yeah. Okay.
I didn't
No,
see it
Watch
on.
it. You look for it tomorrow and the next day.
There
too.
was a little piece on page 3 or 4 about
Oh,
that big,
oh,
that
yeah, okay.
another country.
I think to your point though about the president's voice versus his actions, is huge. I mean, the way he treats his people. I mean, his people, it's his own people. You know, I think,
Yeah.
you know, you have Dr. Fauci out there in front of the whole country, world-renowned expert, right? Whether you agree with him or not, he's Trump's guy, but yet he
Tony, classmate.
right?
He was there a few years before me.
Just a few.
He's a good satyr.
But how can you criticize? You know,
Well,
it's
see,
like-
but that's what hits me.
That's
It's
what I
like,
think the problem.
I don't
is,
know
you
how many times I've seen him do things,
Oh,
right? And then I sit there and say, please shut your mouth. Just keep quiet.
He did that with the Mount Rushmore speech. It was a very good speech out there. The next day he started on about the NASCAR and the race car drive. He literally steps on his message constantly. And again, the delivery, and that's what I said about the tone that Jeff said, especially with seniors, where you know, for us, some of us who are seniors, this is a life and death thing. It isn't, you know, if you get it, your chances of, you have certain conditions. And the way he would talk about it was almost like even when he got it, he didn't, I thought there might be an epiphany there, you know?
Ed, when Tony Fauci got up and said, if you have any of these 4 conditions, you know, you're diabetic,
Yeah.
you're overweight,
Yeah.
you've got a heart condition,
And older.
and you're over 60, I said, oh my God, I'm 4 for 4. This is a life and death situation for me. Because
yeah.
with the diabetes, with the heart condition, you know, with the age and being rotund as I am, there's really good odds that I'm not going to come out of it
You're
in any good shape.
You're a higher risk.
Yeah.
So, you know,
And especially in the beginning when they overventilated people just to basically, and didn't watch the ventilators in many cases. Now there's ways like, I mean, yeah, that's the other thing that Trump should have also brought up, the treatment he got. Now people are saying, well, he was the president, but that, for a man of that age to have it, and that cocktail that he had, that should be an exemplary thing to help people.
I read an article. Trump made it up. He didn't get it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, so.
I didn't see that in the New York Times
So
either.
that's the national. Then, of course, obviously, we could, you know, get the U.S. Senate races and how that affects the Supreme Court nominee. Obviously,
Now,
Amy
do you
Coney
believe
Barrett.
Biden is all there? I mean, when he said he was running for Senate.
No,
I don't think so.
no.
It concerns me.
I've talked to people who say he's past the middle. You know, his fully functioning, here's the middle, and he's on that side of the less functioning. Let's put it politely.
Well,
Wait,
He's
before-
78, isn't he? So I mean, yeah.
he's going to be 82 if he wins when he's running
Well,
again.
Yeah, which he's not going to be running again. So he
Before
already
we,
said it one term, didn't he? Yeah.
before we jump there, just we were talking about the demographics and who do we think the president has turned off. Not only do I think the seniors, I think he's turned off the millennials.
Oh,
Just what he's done just what he's promised to the companies for the environment. That's a huge hot button for that age.
You mentioned that
age.
for
I
as
mean,
far
talk
as your
before.
kids and whatever college kids.
That's a huge hot
The
button.
Gen,
you
what's
know,
what's the new Gen? Gen Z? What's the new one? The youngest ones now. The ones who are just voting. That's
Gen
not Gen
Z.
X.
Gen Z, I
Gen
think
Z.
Gen
They talked about how there was an article in pretty good journal that talked about how Reagan. Young people loved Reagan, and I can testify to a lot of people in their 40s who are conservative and Republicans. A couple of my good friends who you
God,
know.
it shows how old we are when we say the young people, those 40-year-olds.
Well, what I meant was that, but when Reagan was president, he was beloved by a lot of young people because they liked him. Well, and as I say, I know 4 or 5 friends who were in town government who all loved Reagan, and they liked him, and it influenced their political views. This seems to be the opposite with Trump, as you were saying.
But now you look at it, and I wonder. You can say anything you want about Trump, but he's done well.
I agree.
You know, everybody argues he's only worth $1 billion or he's not worth.
Well, that's all.
But I turn around and say, how many of our friends are worth over $1 billion?
But why
Right,
is
but
this-
hold on.
yeah.
Now, when I look at the red states, you know, the square states,
Yep.
he seems to be solid. And a lot of it is because of his mannerisms. You know, when you start
Well,
looking
he's not a
at,
politician. They're tired of that. I mean, Joe Biden is the first of all, he's beyond politician. I mean, because he's been doing it so long, it's just natural to him. I mean, how many years? He's been in Washington.
well,
for how
come on,
many
he's
years?
been 40 years there. You know, he and Ed Markey are best buddies down there. I don't think they ever come back, you know, to their home states.
Oh, and you talk about Ed Markey's really turned into quite a beauty, so, yeah.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
how many times have you seen him in Milford? How many times have you seen him in Massachusetts?
Well, he made the mistake years ago of listing the suburbs of D.C. as his primary residence, and then he got caught and he had to change it, again, it's going to be, as I say, I think the Senate's very important. Obviously, the Supreme Court, new Supreme Court justice is going to be confirmed, I think, on Monday by the
Was
Senate.
that a surprise to anybody?
Her?
The fact that they would fill that spot?
The Democrats would have done that in a minute of the same way. I mean, there's no question about it. If you have power, you use it. But the fact is, where did you ever see a person of that brilliance sitting there who had no notes, who answered how many hours of questions on every different case? They cited case after case after case. And she raised the pad, and I like that someone asked her. A blank pad. Total command with a large family, made her choices in life about her family. 2 adopted children from Haiti, a special needs son. I mean, amazing life story. And,
The problem is when the Democrats made it so that you didn't need 60 votes.
yes, that was Harry Reid did that, yes.
You think about what Mr. Reid did.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I was one of them on the show, said, what scares me is someday it's going to come down to, and here it is, I'm not going to get 1 vote from the other side of the aisle. I control at least 50 votes on my side. I can push somebody either far left or far right, and I don't care about the middle.
But the thing is, with her acumen, in a normal environment, she would probably get 70 votes. So in other words, she'd get a chunk of the Democrats, and she'd get the hardliners wouldn't vote. But in this area, again, it's like a lot of Republicans who might have misgivings about Trump, Republican politicians. They don't dare say anything about things. The same way on the other side, I'm sure there's a lot of Democrats who don't like the socialist agenda, the Medicare for all, but they don't want to say a word because their activists are waiting for them. You saw what happened with, Joe Kennedy versus Markey. Markey radicaled him, out-lefted him, and he thumped him.
Well, we had half a dozen candidates come on for Joe Kennedy's seat, come on the show. And it was amazing that the consistent message was, how far left I'm further left than the previous candidate. It was just amazing to me that nobody was talking about being a centralist.
Yeah. I guess Auchincloss did started to say that a bit in his, the most of the district. That's probably why he won, because most of the district isn't,
I think your point about this, back to the Supreme Court for a minute, I mean, you saw Senator Feinstein, right? She thought it was one of the best hearings ever,
yeah.
for a Democrat.
Yeah, but she got crucified
next day
by her
for a hug.
Right.
And then the next day they said, get her out because she hugged Lindsey Graham.
Yeah, how could she hug Graham? How could she do that?
She's a nice person, I guess.
Well, but I mean, isn't that what the days of Tip O'Neill
Well,
and Reagan?
Although she is not entirely innocent, because you remember when Kavanaugh was nominated, Blasey Ford or whatever the professor was, she held on to that thing for 6 months? Remember?
Yep.
She came to her first. So that was a big mistake on
And
her
at the
part.
end of the day,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but you brought it up where you said, of course they have power, they're going to use it. I don't believe the Democrats would have done anything different.
Well, there's not even a question about it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Now, the part I don't like is having the court leaning too far right or left.
Again, that remains. People have always put justices on. Lyndon Johnson put them on. I like Romney's statement when he said, the stars have aligned differently. The Democrats packed the courts for years. They had William Brennan, Douglas. They had all these different people, and things worked out one way or the other. But I don't know. I think we want to do some local stuff, or do you want to?
Sure.
Yeah. How about the ballot questions? What do people think about those as far as question 1 is the right to repair?
For the first time, I don't think people really understand
I don't think
these
they do.
questions.
Either one.
Either one,
Yeah.
but take question number 1.
a little more straightforward than question 2, let's put it that way. Because
True.
question 2 is very arcane about election law.
But question number 1, I'm going to have people, serial killers, tracking me down by the information in my car.
Well, that's a dirty ad, obviously, yeah.
I mean, wait a minute. I thought this was about, can Ray up the street access all the information he needs to fix my car?
Were we talking in the last show, was this someone else? I was having a discussion with someone, and they said a woman was undecided, and she said, look who, the person said to her, look up who gave all the money, no on question 1. $3 million from Chrysler, $3 million from Ford, $3 million from Toyota, all the way down the line. So obviously the dealers want to keep a monopoly or even a greater monopoly on car repairs. So they want to make it more difficult to...
I have no doubt. I mean, I take my car up to my local, who's taken care of me for many years.
Yep.
And there's certain things, when my little red car, when my summer car needed a clutch, Ray said, I can't do it. You got to take it back to the dealer.
Yeah.
Now, I got treated a lot nicer. I got a nice little office. I got coffee.
Well, I bet you did, but what you getting charged? So.
And then all of a sudden, I mean, the greatest one was when
You
I
get
had
breakfast, and
well,
then you knew
when I
you'd be
had
in
my own
trouble.
Mercedes,
Yeah.
and I'd take it in, it was a diesel. I got an internet area. I had somebody bringing me coffee whenever. Of course, it was $400 for a tune-up.
Yeah, well,
And then you
or
sit
more.
there and say, but wait a minute, what do you tune up on a diesel?
Well, you had a $400 coffee, so I mean,
Yeah, but why,
So-
but why would question 1 change that? I mean, your garage guy could still work on it, but would question 1 have had changed the decision for the clutch?
no.
Wouldn't it?
But
Wouldn't
it would on other,
ch-
but
I
things,
don't
so.
know. See,
Yeah.
at first I thought this was about plugging into the information
Yeah.
subnet of the car
Yeah,
and having all the information
Which it isn't.
that the dealers have
Yeah.
available to the locals. Now that I felt good about.
Well,
Yeah,
my
that makes
question too is a little more. Okay, so take that first commercial where they had the lady walking in the garage and the mad scientist or rapist is
Yeah.
following her because he knows all about her from her repair. Okay, but let's put it this way. So you bring your car to the local guy who has a reputation to maintain. He's in the community, he's not somewhere else. Or you might bring it to a dealership, and it could be a perfectly good dealership. But what if there's one bad apple working there?
Well, see,
No, I'm just saying.
but Ed, that is what hit me because I'm saying I've been going to Ray for 20, 30 years. I know him. He knows my
and
family.
he's trusted,
I
period.
feel more comfortable giving him my information
Yes, and that should
than
be
giving a big dealership
shouldn't that, since I think Mr. Sullivan said, a Sullivan Tire, it's your car, it's your choice. It's, you're going to tell people that, Americans don't like to be told they can't go anywhere.
So what is question 1 all about?
I think it's about trying to get more of a monopoly by the dealerships. I voted for it, question 1, because I think the little guy should be able to thrive and survive, because it's hard enough. What they say, there's 1,500 independent garages in the state, and they employ a lot of people.
But see, the American
well.
way is competition.
Yes.
I want the dealers to earn my business.
Well,
yeah, I agree.
So I felt comfortable supporting question 1.
yep.
But I got to admit, some of the ads turned me off on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the whole point of ads. They do put them. What do you think why politics is so poisonous? They do it in front of focus groups. And the focus groups aren't on the guy who wants to bring things together, they're on the guy who wants to bring things apart. And I guess the other question, which is the question 2, which is I don't think we
Yeah,
should.
but hold on, before we
Yeah,
jump
yeah.
to that, because that's another Michigas,
Yeah.
but, so how would you describe question 1 in your mind, Jeff?
I think question 1, you vote yes. It gives access to every mechanic has access to all the information as the dealerships. But question 2 limits it just the way it is now. Certain things you have to go to the dealer for, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation.
Yeah,
of it.
that's
See, and
Right.
that's where I come out saying, I want a level playing field on information, and then you earn. If I want to pay my $400 coffee,
So be it.
so be it.
Well, again, you're telling Americans they can't go somewhere,
Right.
and they don't like that. But
So how do you think it'll come out?
I think it'll win. Yeah, I think the polling shown it's ahead. So it won the first time. because right to repair was put on how many years ago? There was a different kind of right to repair, but this is a more modified version of it, yeah.
Okay.
And I think, you know, and I won't belabor the point, but I think you said, you know, you said about a bad apple. You're going to get that. I mean, I have a Honda Pilot, and I had to get the front fixed, and it was under warranty. And when I took it to the dealer's going to fix it because of warranty issue, right? He says, it's past warranty. It's got it's 2017, right? It's got 138,000 miles on it. I said, it has 25,000 miles on it, right? Well, I have the Carfax right here. Some dealer in Marion, not some garage in Marion, used our VIN and entered it twice on the Carfax. I had to go to Carfax and get it taken off. And so, to your point, there's, you know, there's going to be stuff that happens.
Yeah, again, to me, it's all about, I get to pick somebody I trust.
Well, it's the American way,
And
period.
don't tell me how to make that decision, because that annoys me.
That separates the United States from European country, from Asian country, for plus or minus, depending on some things.
Now, question number 2, where it's the P is moving, and I mean,
And let's not even get that. First of all, I rest my case. Cambridge has used it for 50 years. The city of Cambridge.
and you're saying that the People's Republic wouldn't do something that was a
First
good
of all,
thing?
it takes apparently a week to settle a city election, because they have to do all the ranked voting. So if you came in 4th, but had all the second place votes, say you didn't win, you know, they were going to elect the top 3, and you came in 4th, but you got all the second place votes, you could win.
you win.
So it's like you're basically basically going one man, one vote is now it's one man, whatever votes. But I think again that's
one person.
yes, well, one person.
Be nice. Now, my understanding is, let's take your example. You got 4 people. None of them hit 50% on their number 1 choice.
Yeah.
So you
Well, you wouldn't
number
probably, you know.
number 4 gets voted off the island, and all the votes from number 4 now get divvied up according to who was 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
In the number, in the well, again, people are good. They don't want to hear this, but the number 4 vote, they have to look at the people who got the number 4 vote and see how they did it.
Right. So if there was
could take-
100 number 4 votes, 25 go to the 2nd place, 35 go to the 3rd. They divvy
Well,
it
it
back.
depends when they have to look at the ballot though to see who, you know, did it. That's where it's how to tabulate it. So, but how about the local races? We got some local ones
Actually, we got a race this year.
for state senate.
State Senate, Ryan Fatman is got a challenger,
Yeah.
our own Christine Crean from Milford.
One of your
On the
comes up-
Liberal View.
she comes on one of your shows, the Liberal
She
View.
comes
yeah.
out on the Liberal View.
Yeah.
Good.
How do you think that's going to turn out?
I personally think Ryan's done a great job. You know,
Yeah.
and I think he's in front of it. I've read something about Christine Crean. You know, and I read her interview in the past. There was no substance there to me. You know, as to what. There's never a substance as to what are you going to do. I don't like this, but there's nothing about how you're going to fix
Yeah.
it.
And again,
You know, and
I
that's-
think it's a very liberal. I mean, Ryan did one thing. He literally held up, which would have affected all public officials, including you and other people on the finance committee and select boards. He held up that the Senate was going to push through that police reform bill that basically almost abolished immunity. But their bill would have abolished immunity for you as a finance committee member, as a selectman, as a school committee member as well, because you have immunity under certain things as well. Not only police, it abolished it all. And Ryan got up and said he had a procedural 3-day delay, and that allowed the other forces to rally, because the Senate's become very radical in Massachusetts, the state Senate under President Spilka. And
How is that possible? There's what, 6 Republicans?
no, we're talking about among the ruling Democrats as well.
Oh.
There used to be a number of moderate Democrats, but they're not even there. But that bill was a terrible bill, and Ryan held it up. So I think he's going to do. Christine may do well in Milford because she's from Milford, but I think Ryan will win the rest of the district. Obviously, his wife is running for countywide office, register of
Yeah,
probate. is it?
Stephanie's doing
Yes.
probate.
So she's running countywide, and that's always a worry for a Republican in a presidential year because of the turnout. So we'll see. She's doing a real strong campaign in the northern part of the county. and obviously she's from the southern part, so, and I guess she said that she was really campaigning in a lot of precincts in Worcester to try and diminish the Democrats' problem margin in Worcester, so.
But it's got to be hard for a challenger to an incumbent when you turn around and say, what's the big problem to solve?
I think a lot of people don't know what the office even is, though, on the ballot.
Well, no,
Register.
forget probate.
Okay.
Let's look at state senator.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, for Ryan and Christie.
Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, for Chris to come in and say, I disagree with this, this, and this.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been a really strong message of these three things
No.
need to be changed.
No, I agree. That's why I said I don't see,
Yeah, I
what's
think
your what's your
yeah,
platform? I
she's
didn't,
probably
I
running,
didn't see it.
Probably running more on party label and hoping that a strict Democrat who won't vote for a Republican. But obviously, in Massachusetts, that's not the case because we had repeated Republican governors. People split their tickets, but maybe.
But it's also tough that, I mean, if you think about it, if you remember Dick Moore,
Yeah.
Dick was everywhere. He and his wife, Joanne, they were supporting everything in Milford. Seemed to be doing a good job. And Ryan just outworked them.
Yeah.
You know, even now, though, when you think about the old days, you either had to have a really strong machine or you had to work the streets real hard.
Right.
You know, when Joe Kennedy ran the first time, he had the machine. I mean, they basically told young Joe, just don't blow it. Just sit quietly. The machine will take care of you.
Well.
But
those
even
are-
that, I mean,
Those days are gone, I think, yeah.
well, I mean, he went against Markey. Who would
Yeah.
have ever thought a Kennedy would lose
Yeah, well,
a local race?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Right.
again,
So now you turn around and say to Chris, what is the big issue that you can fix?
Right.
And by the way, you can't go knocking on a tremendous amount of
With
doors.
COVID is a problem.
I
And
think
she came
yeah.
on and said she would knock on the door and back off. But a lot of people were open to her, but a lot of people weren't.
Well, yeah, I mean,
That's
some
tough-
of her
that's tough
campaign
to work.
some of her campaign volunteers went to different streets in Milford and said, no, we're really not interested. I think probably her major pitch would be that Ryan's a Republican. That would be about it. And for some people that may resonate, but for a lot of people, okay, so what else? He's done this for me. When I called his office, you know, constituent service is still a big deal, especially a state rep or a state senator. That's what Marie Parenti was always known for, constituent services. When she was in, you know, you'd get a call back at any hour if you left a message for her. And I think the same with, you know, Ryan's done the same thing. He's got a good office to respond to people, and that's what people I think like. They expect you to be around for that.
Well, the other thing, too, is with Ryan, people seem to like him.
Yeah.
Not that they don't like Chris,
Right.
but I think the
Well, it's
burden
not a
of-
comparison, really. No.
No, but I'm saying if you had somebody who was just hard,
Well, it goes back to Trump and Biden, right?
there you go. That's the scary part. If he would keep his mouth shut,
Well, yeah. If. Can you imagine how many people I've told my friends who are fanatically for Trump and say yes, however, and then it's like if, and they say if. Well, the problem is the ifs are over, because the if time is.
now, Ed,
done.
It's
when
done.
you think about it, 2016, my opinion, just mine, I think there were a lot of people who politically didn't talk the way they voted. They couldn't say, I support Trump,
Well,
but when it
Voted-
came
but
to
voted that
voting,
way.
they voted that way.
if you saw, there's the Denise D'Souza video he did, and if you saw the way the mainstream media treated Trump when he announced for president, they literally laughed in an audience. Okay, and then he gets elected, and since then they've been at war. The media has been at war with Trump. I mean, CNN they've been very clear what their goal is. Get rid of him.
But now, if Biden wins, would it surprise you if Fox goes after him?
But not in the way that, I mean, they're going after him now about the Hunter Biden. We're talking about remarks about family, about this, about that, everything in a real jihad almost of why. And if anyone could figure out after this that the media had a bias, where were they for 4 years? I mean, you know that they treated President Reagan not well. George H.W. they didn't treat well. President George Bush they didn't treat well. I mean, it goes on and on.
Yeah, but what do you say now, the past few weeks, ex-President Obama
Yeah.
has come out and said that he left a robust, growing economy.
Baloney. In his mind, is that that was his idea of a robust growing economy?
Well, I mean, I always remember the statement where he said to grow the U.S. economy more than 2%, you need a magic wand.
Well, my question, I guess my question to him is, and no one will ask it because of the race issue. We had a man who said he was African American. He was a mixed ancestry, but he self-identified, which is his privilege. And yet, race relations in 8 years. What happened in race relations that they really didn't get any better because Trump didn't cause all this to happen. All these problems were there underneath. So Obama didn't even look at them and didn't even attempt to solve them. Why isn't he getting any criticism and why isn't anyone asking him that question? What did you do except to be the first African American president? What did you do for race relations in the United States?
Is the world not changing? I mean, I read in the paper.
No, what I'm asking, to him, in the United States, not the world, the United States of America, what he did that would have made the George Floyds and all these things not happen.
Today, in the Times, I read that Jesuit, the Pope, this guy may save the Catholic Church from itself.
Well,
that he endorsed, not endorsed, but he
Same
didn't
sex.
say bad things about same-sex
marriage.
civil
Civil
unions.
unions.
Yes.
Now, you can't expect the Pope
well,
to say marriage, same-sex marriage,
Well,
but isn't that as close
No.
as anybody would expect?
no.
Why?
Civil unions, first of all, have been in, how many years have they been in France? The prime minister before this one was in a civil union with his girlfriend for years because of financial and other things, and they both had families. But they were in a civil union together. They went to the city hall, and so it allows you, like everyone agrees, I think is fair, without endorsing any kind of lifestyle, if you're with a man or a woman as a committed partner, you should be able to leave your property to who you want to.
And give them the medical rights.
Exactly. You're not having, like.
I don't want a stranger. Now, I don't understand the gay thing.
No,
I don't want to understand
we're
it.
not talking about.
But
we're not
but
talking
wait a minute.
about gay. We're talking about fairness to be able to give your
But that's
money.
what I'm saying. Realistically, I've always had a basic outlook that says, don't try and make me gay. I won't try and make you straight, and then we'll decide if we can be friends.
Yeah, but you're bringing the judgment in of whatever. Let's just state
What
to what it
judgment?
is. Well, no, you're talking. We're talking about a simple thing of if people want to enter into a relationship.
Yes.
It's not just, as we all know, people who are married, it's not just romantic, it's financial, it's this, it's that. Well, they were finding out years ago that people had been together for many years, had property, and all of a sudden, when the
One dies and the other one has no rights.
No, a relative who came in maybe never spoke to them and said, bye, get out of here, it's not even your house anymore. So that to me, civil union has always been a thing that should have been put in the states in the first place. Beside gay marriage, they should have had civil unions in the first place. Now, gay marriage is a entirely different issue. I mean, as far as to some
Yeah, but
people's mind.
even civil unions amongst same-sex couples.
That's what I'm saying, yeah.
To me, I was really pleased to see the Pope come out and not fight it.
Well, you could imagine the reaction in the Vatican to this.
Well, no, that was, the people in the Vatican have always said, told you not to let a Jesuit in the building.
Well, there's a reason he doesn't live or eat in the Vatican.
Well, I mean,
Well, where does he live and
well,
where
he
does he eat?
started when he became Pope and they had this beautiful place. He said, why do I need that?
Yes, but I think it's also safer. Let me put it that way. All right, so.
I hope it's not that, but
Yeah.
you know, when you think about his real beliefs, the Jesuit beliefs, and I went to a Jesuit school, and Jesuits are sneaky. They sneak their values into you, and pretty soon you believe them without knowing
Don't
it.
you think they're almost super church? They have their own set of beliefs that are.
Yeah, but Ed, you think about it, they really did get people to believe it's your responsibility to help people who are less fortunate, who are less privileged.
Well, that's
And-
the ideal, supposedly, yeah.
But this Pope is great. I think he sees the times and knows how to speak to the times. I think he speaks to the audience. I do. I think I like him.
Oh, a lot of
he's,
us do,
you know.
because he's not saying, and again, I'm not saying I understand same-sex marriage. I don't have to. The people who are in a same-sex marriage probably don't understand my
Yes,
views.
But the point is.
But we have to respect each other.
Apart from that, it's the fact in the church, the people are members of the church, so their view is God loves them, okay? The old thing was love the person, not love the sin, but I mean, that's a little different way to say it, but the Pope is basically saying that if these people, it's the same way with, I'll bring up another one, is, the church's views on divorced people getting remarried. How many people have been estranged from the church because they couldn't afford an annulment, or couldn't go, and they didn't want to go in front of a tribunal of mostly men to talk about their marital situation? So there have been the same way with probably gay men and women, and the same with the divorced and whatever. There's a whole group of people who've been estranged because of some of the views
But see,
the
that
church
I
has.
never understood, Ed.
Well-
Okay, I get married. I have children. We get divorced. I want to bring I get married again. I want to bring my new family into the church because I believe in the Catholic religion. If I get annulled,
Yes.
doesn't that make my first set of children bastards? Right? Because if our marriage never happened,
Yes.
Then
Well, that's what Joe Kennedy's father, Joe, remember the first congressman?
yes.
He wanted an annulment, and the wife, who was an Episcopalian, said, well, what are you calling the twin boys? What are you
Right.
calling the children bastards? Of course, they didn't want to hear that, but I mean, a lot of people don't want to do an annulment because, again, you're going before a panel of, particularly a woman who maybe have been subjected to some stuff. She's going to go before a panel of men, and that's what those
Yeah.
panels are. I totally agree with Jeff. I think he's not only speaking to the times, but it's refreshing, because I think there were popes before who would have liked to have done that. John the 23rd was the first one, way back when
Didn't
we
have
were
the guts
kids.
to.
Huh?
Number one, I don't think they had the intestinal fortitude. Number two, I don't think they had the support.
I definitely don't think that has support. Which,
No, the
which
Vatican,
gave him
the Vatican would never have.
No.
They're so powerful that the one thing about this Pope is that he's been able to appoint cardinals, and obviously the cardinals over 80 can't vote for Pope, so that has more of the conservative people out. And then you have the whole thing of, the whole cloud of the sexual abuse scandal and how that's affected people and how it's affected the power of the church. So it's very interesting to see. I thought it was about time when I read it. I mean, I guess he was, he's doing a documentary or something. He was doing a film or something. And he gave an interview in the film. I think the filmmaker, he elicited different comments.
Yeah, I just saw the excerpt. I didn't see I don't know what
Yeah,
it came
yeah.
from, but I
But
saw the.
he didn't do it as like in the Vatican. He just said it as, this is my view. So,
You could come out and say he hasn't taken a far-reaching enough approach.
well,
And, okay, but this is the Catholic Church. Can you get more conservative?
It's like
Right.
when people talk about, especially very liberal people talk about, right away they get to women priests. Okay, well, in a gradient of things, there are certain steps like reconciling divorced people is very important. There's certain things that have to be done, and I think that's an essential one. I hope he would do that he would really come in and say, let's get with it here, because there are millions of people all over the world who are estranged because they're not, they can't get the sacraments, or they
To
don't feel
this
comfortable.
day, I can't fully understand the whole idea of women priests.
No.
Why can't a woman be a priest? Now, a priest can be married, a priest can be an Episcopalian, get married, have kids,
Yeah.
and then convert to
Again, though,
Catholicism, and the Catholic Church recognizes them.
Right.
And I sit there and I say, wait a minute, except for the fact of cost, because like in Milford, we had
Yeah.
3 priests.
Well, again, but yeah.
We had one house, they each got a room, they didn't have kids, they didn't have anything to save for, so their salaries are low.
The-
And I sit there and say, but why should that be
But you see,
the driving factor.
but the
Why
Ca-
can't they get married and be like
the
everybody
Catholic,
else?
but it's also based on the way Catholic parishes were set up, because it's it's not like in a state where maybe, I'll take Nebraska, where there's the number of Catholics are, smaller. But in the East, the Catholics are the dominant religion as far as percentage-wise. And so, the ideal Protestant congregation works, it could be a minister or Episcopal priest with his family, and they have maybe 1,000 members or less. Well, in our parishes, there are how many thousands of members, and so you have,
Well, St. Mary's of Milford is the biggest parish in Worcester County. I never knew that.
that's
We got
interesting.
3,000 families.
I didn't realize that either.
There's more Protestants in St. Mary's of the Assumption Church than anywhere in the area because of marriages.
Yeah, well,
So I mean, it's amazing. If you really look into it.
but that
The
shows you how
stats.
some of the other parishes have declined in enrollment. Because I'm sure in the day, the Worcester parishes were much larger. But again, so we deviated from politics, but we're onto the politics and religion, as we say, or whatever. But so what do you think for the president? How many minutes we have? Just a
We
minute.
got a minute.
So what do you think? What do you think? You haven't said. What do you think how the election's going to turn out? And say nationally and the Senate.
I really don't know.
No, you don't know.
To me, it's going to be, again, a close. I don't think it's going to be a landslide either way.
Okay.
I hope you're right.
I don't. I couldn't tell you today.
Yeah, I'm a little more pessimistic because maybe I overstudy the process from doing it all these years, but I think Trump has made some missteps long before the first debate, but he's missed some prime opportunities.
And my gut feeling says he's alienated just enough people that he opened the door for Biden.
Yeah, otherwise, because Biden was the desperation candidate, because as you know, when 5 or 6 moderates, quote moderates, were running, then they got rid of Bernie, and then the South Carolina primary came, and the African American coalition, whatever. So,
But is it Biden-Harris, and I'll leave off with, or is it really Harris? And Biden's coming along.
Yeah, that's.
well, I don't know. I may be a little more optimistic. I'm willing to bet that Joe Biden, with the political crew he's got around him, he's had this guy named Kane from 40 years. Kamala Harris is not going to be. She's going to be the vice president, just like Lyndon Johnson wasn't. Lyndon Johnson was what, the 3rd most powerful man in the country, president of the Senate? So hopefully, because she's, to me, is a radical. She's a very leftist. She's a Bernie. And hopefully, she may be running in 4 years when he doesn't run, but we'll see.
Well, thank you. As always, I won't ask you to vote for a candidate, but I will ask you to be informed. I'll beg you to get out and vote. Pick somebody who you trust, who you believe will bring forward your values, whether they're left, right, whether it's red, blue, or people like me that are purple. Just get out and pick somebody and make sure you vote. So as always, to our 6 loyal viewers, may God bless. May tomorrow be a better night than tonight. And now, since we're leaving,
Yep.
back on with the masks.
So.
Good night, all.
Far too long since I've been home. Been running all my life just searching for my soul.